they're both awesome people.
I knew he had more football in him, and it's fun to see him happy and just healthy, and he'll do the rest. I know he doesn't look the part, but he puts a helmet on, he turns into, Superman. So he's fun to watch, and again, like I said, just a great teammate. Whatever role they ask him, he'll be ready for it.
What a great story. More Panthers training camp coverage up now on WCNC Plus, free and easy to download to your smart TV. Another big college game coming to Uptown. The Charlotte Sports Foundation announcing another addition to its Dukes Mayo Classic lineup. Wake Forest and Notre Dame will meet in 2027 at Bank of America Stadium. North Carolina A&T will also meet North Carolina Central that year, marking another doubleheader in the event's history. This year's game featuring Charlotte and App State on August 29th. Well, it is literally the perfect time for this team to get into top form. Charlotte FC, another win Saturday night, 2-0 over Toronto. That's now a club record 4 league wins in a row, all coming with crucial 3 points. Charlotte remains steady in 7th place, playoff position, with time to improve that even more.
I said right from the start there'll be lots of little different moments where we can make history for the club, and our job is to leave the shirt in a better place. Pleased that we've won 4. Still doesn't take away the pain from May. It's good that we've put ourselves in the chase again.
It's good. I feel like it's what the team deserves. We went through a difficult spell, but us winning the games now is just showing the team's resilience.
All right, unfortunately, they have to break now to play Leagues Cup. They've had all this momentum, but hopefully they come back with it.
Yeah, let's do it, guys.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Don't forget, Brad is going to be on for our Impact Weather Stream at 6:30, and then?
Yep, the stream, live Impact News, as we usually have at 7 to 9. We're going to be diving into that Deion Sanders diagnosis of bladder cancer. We've got an expert who's going to speak on that. I think a really important discussion to have right now.
We'll see you then, and we'll see you at 11 tonight. Mic check 1 2, mic check 1 2. Yep. It starts. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, welcome to a Monday, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here, your live weather impact on a Monday. And I don't think I need to tell you what the story of the weekend was, and really this week so far. It's been the crazy heat. We warned you last week that this was going to be a crazy stretch of hot weather, and in some cases, it's surpassed some of our forecasts. We've had 3 straight days now of 101 or higher, which is a rare air for the Charlotte area. But the good news in all this, there are some significant signs of relief that could be heading our way as soon as mid to late week, but primarily for the weekend. So let's start with the view outside right now. Our Dallas camera will show you we do have some showers out there. That's the other good part of this. We're starting to see a better chance of rain. I'll explain why that is here in a second, because when you're getting these heat waves, sometimes it's hard to get rain, especially if the ridge of high pressure is camped out right on top of you. But we are seeing some clouds and showers, especially from our Dallas camera, which is in Gaston County. That's west of Charlotte for everybody folks not familiar with the area. The temperatures show across the western half of our area, we're seeing some significantly cooler weather. Look, it's 77 in Lincolnton, 76 in Morgan. That's because of clouds and showers. Now, we're still 98 in Charlotte, 99 in Concord, 100 in Lancaster right now. And as I mentioned, it's been a crazy 3-day stretch. We were 99 Friday, by the way, so that was pretty hot. 101 Saturday, 102 Sunday. The 101 did break a record. The old record was 100. We missed the record by 1 yesterday. And today we hit 101 again, which missed the record by 1. And that's a pretty wild stretch. We've only had like a handful of times we've had 3 days in a row like this. In fact, this will tie for the longest stretch of 101-degree days on record. The longest is 4. I don't think we'll hit the 101 tomorrow, but kind of shows you how close we've been. Now, I do want to show you the rainfall. We'll get back to the temperatures here, but some folks are seeing rain tonight, and that's good news for everybody because we need the rain. And the good news down in York County, we're seeing new storms develop, and that will be the one thing I'll tell you about these storms. Everyone will pull out their phone and look at the radar app. They're not going to develop and move towards you. They've got to develop on top of you. Basically, what you're seeing right now over Rock Hill, Fort Mill, TKK, that's what you expect. Nothing on the radar, then a storm develops. So what you want to look for is go outside and look for towering cumulus clouds. That'll give you a good sign of a storm developing over you. These really aren't moving. What's happening is the storms are developing, they're raining themselves out, which means they build up, they collapse, and they push out a rush of cool air, which feels great, but also produces a mini cool front, which then kicks off additional storms. So that's kind of the pattern we're in. It's not like a cold front or a storm system heading our way. These are kind of watching water boil on your stove, and you just wait for the bubbles to develop, and hopefully, in this case, we need rain. You hope one develops right over you. So the mountains and foothills have seen more of these, and they've seen more cloud cover, so that has allowed for temperatures to be much cooler. I will also tell you a little bit of news details. Over in Polk County, they had a major transmission line impacted by a tree, which knocked power out to like 10,000 people. So there's a lot of people without power in Polk and Rutherford counties. That's a big deal because those transmission lines aren't as easy a fix as some of those lines that are on the side of the road or in between poles. You see the scattered showers out there right now. These are going to continue for a while. We will see probably several rounds of these the next couple of days. So as we see the heat wave build and kind of maybe slacken off just a little bit, I do expect we're going to see at least better chances of afternoon and evening storms the next couple of days. So that will give us a chance of not only cooler weather, but also the potential that we're going to see some cloud cover to help cool things down. We still have a heat advisory tomorrow, another day. I think this is going to be day 4 in a row with heat advisories. I do think we could see some on Wednesday, but there likely will be fewer counties because the temperature is going to be trending in the right direction. Tomorrow, I am not forecasting 100, but we're going to be really close. If we got to 100, I honestly wouldn't be shocked, but 98, 99 seems to be a little bit closer to what I'm anticipating. But notice the 50% chance of rain tomorrow. While not everybody's going to get rain, that is definitely the highest chance we've seen in quite some time. I think I got to go back to maybe 2 weeks ago, but when we had a rain chance that widespread. The heat streak, as we mentioned, not 100-degree days, but 90-degree days now stands at 22 in a row. That's the 4th longest streak on record, and we're likely going to move up this list because I'm going to have 90 plus at least through Friday. So right now we're tied for number 4 with 1925. We could move up here, or at least break out of a tie and be 4 all by ourselves. But what I want to point out here are these years. 1993, 2007, 1986, those were all incredibly hot summers. 93 is still one of our hottest summers on record here. 86 was a horrible drought and heat wave in the southeast. And 2007, I can attest to that. August of that year, crazy hot, one of the hottest months that we have ever experienced here. So we're having that type of summer right now. And remember, August doesn't start till this weekend, so we've got a good ways to go. And speaking of that, to put in perspective, 90-degree days on an average year for a whole year, calendar year, 44 days of 90 plus. Today is what, the 28th, 41, and we're not even in August yet. So we're going to blow past our average. We're certainly way ahead of last year's pace. I don't think we'll get to 88 because we're going to have some 90s well into September and even early October to get there. But we could be pretty far up the list. I think we'll certainly be up there. But there are signs, as I mentioned, that we're going to see cooler weather. And you're starting to see that in our heat impact map. So we've been showing you a lot of purple, what we call magenta, a lot more red by Thursday with orange. That's a trend in the right direction. And then by Friday, look at that, just moderate to minor. And by the weekend, I mean, it's actually going to feel pretty good around here. We're going to see some significantly cooler weather, and not just a little bit, by a lot. The upper level pattern, everyone wants to ask, where's this heat coming from? If you've been following weather online, this heat dome has been kind of centered over the southeast and really over Florida and the northeastern Gulf. In fact, Tampa set their first 100-degree day on record for Tampa, and that was like a shock to a lot of people. It's kind of like Charlotte. People think 100's very common. That's the first time they've ever hit 100 in Tampa. When you're on the water, you typically don't get that hot, even in Florida, because the sea breeze helps you out. They had the heat dome right on top of us, and they had an offshore wind, which was coming over most of the peninsula, and so the air was super hot, and it kept them toasty. So that heat dome has been the reason we've seen so much heat, but now it's going to slide off to the south, unfortunately over Florida a little bit in the middle of the week, and then back up to the west, and the opposite's going to happen. We're going to have a trough or a dip in the jet stream. That brings cooler, moist air into the region. So the combination of clouds, showers, and yes, even cooler air, because we'll have northeast flow into early next week. You see how the heat dome kind of breaks down completely? That sets the stage for a much cooler pattern going into the weekend. And I would expect highs could be 8 to 10 degrees below normal as opposed to the 10 to 12 degrees we had above. So we look at the 5-day rainfall forecast. This is good news, too, for a lot of folks because it has been bone dry. We're going to talk to Tim Buckley here in a minute, how they've been polar opposite of us as far as rainfall. They're running like a 10-inch surplus for the last 30 days. Most of the Charlotte area, western North Carolina, and southwestern part of North Carolina into the upstate is running like 5 to 6 inch deficits for rainfall in the past 30 days. So we desperately need the rain. And because of the heat and the lack of rain, it's really caused a lot of issues with our plants, our trees, everything else. So it's been pretty brutal around here as far as anybody trying to do gardening or landscaping. So the good news is that relief is on the way. And when we look at the 6 to 10 day outlook, which does account for this weekend, you'll see a nice little bubble of below average temperatures over the Carolinas. And right now the chances are around between 50 and 30% for below average temperatures. And so it is looking really good. So I think as we look at the next 7 days, we'll show you that the 7-day forecast looks pretty promising here. We're looking at temperatures, again, crazy hot. We're going to want you to stay, weather alert the next 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday. But by Thursday, still hot, mid-90s. By Friday, low 90s, maybe 90-ish, which will feel great. But look at the weekend, low 80s, especially Sunday, because Sunday could be partly cloudy with 82, 81 degrees and morning lows in the 60s, which is something we haven't seen since the middle of June. So the fact that we're going to have both the combination of cooler mornings and cooler afternoons, it's going to feel great. And even next week, as temperatures warm up a little bit, it's at least only back to normal, which for us is about 89, 90 degrees. So that's typical heat. And we talked a lot about how the heat has not been typical. This heat has not really been typical at all. So the fact that we're actually going to see something that is closer to normal should feel really good going into the weekend. So That's a quick look at the forecast. Coming up here in just seconds, we're going to bring in Tim Buckley from WFMY, our sister station up there. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about why we were hot, they weren't so hot, why they have green grass and we have brown grass. And we'll also talk about some of the things coming up in the Triad area, because they have a big golf tournament coming up this week, the Wyndham. We'll talk about that in just seconds as Tim joins us. All right, and that's quick. There he is. Hey, Tim, how you doing?
How's it going, Brad? Hopefully you're staying cool in the heat capital of the Carolinas lately. Have you dethroned Fayetteville even, it seems?
Yeah, Vietnam got displaced by Charlotte. Yeah, it's been crazy. I had a lot of people because, like you, I have a lot of followers across the state. And usually like Raleigh down to Fayetteville is kind of that hot belt. And they're all shocked that they're actually cooler than us. And it's been kind of a weird setup. You're right. Typically, those areas in the coastal plain would be much hotter than us. But it's been kind of like Charlotte to Columbia to Greenville, Spartanburg, and Southwest, and not as much towards you guys.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you brought that up. It's almost more of a Western Carolina-oriented ridge. When we say ridge, we mean like the placement of the high or the placement of the heat dome, whatever you want to call it. It's not as much of a Bermuda high kind of setup. It's more of one that's a little bit Western. So maybe that's why you're compressing the air a little bit more over there. And the Raleigh airport's not reading 105 or anything this time. So you're winning. You're winning or losing, whichever way you'd like to classify it, I guess.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring something else up, that you guys not only have been cooler, you've also been a lot wetter than us, really, for the last 30 days. You guys had all that flooding, obviously, and that's helped you guys out, because down here, we've been kind of hot and dry. And so when I drive around, and today I noticed that everything was just looked like desert and totally brown, and the trees are losing leaves. But you guys have a little bit of the opposite going on up there.
It is kind of the opposite, actually. And now that you mention that, I wonder if that plays into some of the different heating, maybe on a very small scale too. But if you have that dry, baked, deserty kind of ground right now, then you could actually be, heating up a lot easier. Whereas if we have the wet ground, it takes more energy to kind of heat things up. So maybe that could be part of it. But I was actually flying in this week, and I had a quick thing with family to get out of state for, and then came back today. And it was just amazing to me how green all of our grass was. Just flying in, it was almost like you were coming into Ireland or something. But all the grass was green, and our area, we're way above average for the month. We talk about we've had some areas get 15 inches or so of rainfall. Greensboro was over 9 inches of rain for the month. Hold on, I'm going to pop this up here so you can see my view.
Oh,
this is over PTI Airport this morning in Greensboro. No filters, filters used. But it's green. It's green for the Wyndham Championship. It's green for your backyard. And the nice thing is you have really nice grass growing. The not so nice thing is you've got to cut your grass once or twice a week right now in a heat wave. So
that's
it's thick
not
and
fun.
it's growing, but we've been wet. No.
Yeah, that looks like the polar opposite of us. And it's really confined to areas around Charlotte and Southwest, like you said. It's we've just had no rain at all, and it's just made for just miserable conditions. And I think you're right. There's a lot of signs to that, like the vegetation's lush, and you have recent rainfall. Sun's energy goes into evaporation versus heating the air, and I think there is a little bit of that going on here as well. But yeah, I had a lot of questions about that, like why it's been so dry here. And one of the maps that I kept pulling up, and you can bring up Weather 1 here, Jeb. I'll just show you. The heat dome has been kind of in this weird spot, as you mentioned. It's not really the Bermuda High, but it's been kind of centered over the Gulf Coast states and Florida. Florida and Tampa, they got up to 100 degrees in Tampa for the first time. And there's been very little storm activity down over the northeastern Gulf, which is also something that kind of not only causes a heat wave on land, but we've seen this in the past when these domes set up over the Gulf or the Western Atlantic, they can heat the water up dramatically as well, and eventually cause a warm pool of air or water that will then be fuel for hurricane season. So when we look at that heat dome centered to our southwest, today was a good example. I was looking at some of the readings, and we had 100-degree temperatures in Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and parts of the Carolinas. But you go from Raleigh to Greensboro up into the Virginias, you had 80s and 90s, and it wasn't nearly as hot. So kind of an interesting setup in that area. And one of the things we were talking about before the show tonight was, I'm going to try to bring it up, is that we don't know for sure. Jeb, have we heard yet? Duke Power may have set a demand record today.
Here, let me do some looking here while you guys are chatting.
Yeah. So I was checking the stats because I don't know about you, Tim, but I have one of those programmable thermostats. And I got the little energy rush hour notice like, hey, you got to reduce your thermostat for 2 hours to save energy. And lo and behold, I went to look at the energy department's demand for the Carolinas. And based on the numbers I saw around 2 o'clock, it may have been a summertime peak for demand from Duke Power in the Carolinas. So were you guys asked to conserve at all up there or anything?
I didn't get a notice myself on mine here in Greensboro, but a lot of times, I know it happened even earlier this summer where they put out notices ahead of time saying, we really want you to reduce during the hottest parts of the day and, change your temperature setting a little bit. It's interesting that thankfully, it doesn't seem like there were any rolling blackouts or anything like that. We had that a couple winters ago, I remember. But, a lot of people might not realize, but power companies, they have a lot of meteorology that goes into them.
Yeah.
And they're very in tune with how much they need to make and not wanting to make more than they need, but to have just enough, right, to meet the demand. And it's interesting that of all that, I don't know how long those records go back necessarily, but if it were to be a demand record, that could speak to the heat level right now, but also maybe to the growing population too.
Yeah, you got a couple things going on. So I finally got the graphic here. It's on my laptop, Jeb, if you can grab it. So I grabbed this, and if you're not familiar with this site, this is actually free to anybody. It's the Energy and the U.S. Department of Energy puts this website out for all the grids. And so this was at 2 o'clock this afternoon, just for the Carolinas version of Duke Power. If you're not familiar, Duke has Duke and Progress. It's two power companies that merged. So for us, it was 2,107.01 megawatt hours. And the reason that was somewhat important is I actually pulled up the records, and you could see the winter records. And the crazy thing is our winter records are actually higher than our summer records, but that tells you most of the heating in the Southeast is not gas, it's electric. So that kind of tells you a lot. But if you look at Duke Energy specific peak total all-time highs, it's like 21,623, but if you look at the summer one, it was like 2671. So we were pretty close to like one of those all-time highs there for the summer, and kind of shows you that, as you mentioned, Tim, we were using a lot of power, but man, the growth in the Carolinas has been crazy, and data centers and AI, all that stuff is sucking energy like crazy. So that is something we'll have to monitor going forward, because we are only using more electricity, and sometimes the generation is not keeping up with that.
It's true, and if you're one of these, I'm going to put my air at 68 kind of people, like that's not the way to be on a heat wave. I mean, it's not good for the community. It might be good for you, but that's a little bit too much work for your system to go under right now. You had some good tips I saw about cleaning around the actual condenser outside, and changing all the filters. Those kind of things can go a pretty long way, and typically you don't realize that's an issue until it makes an issue for yourself. I had that happen to me a couple years ago. I don't know that it was anything I did wrong, but I can tell you, coming back from work and having it be 81 degrees inside, that's a bad feeling when it's 11:30 at night, and you've got to live with that for a couple of days. So you don't want that to be you.
I got to give a huge shout. I did on my Facebook page, though, but I saw someone. I went running today early in the morning, but I saw a HVAC company replacing somebody's air handler in their attic, and I thought about it at the time. I'm like, those guys and gals that are doing that, going up into a 140, 50-degree attic and replacing that right now, those people need an award. They are amazing, because I don't know if you've been in your attic in the middle of summer. It is not fun up there.
The last time I did was to go up and look at some stuff I didn't understand to try and fix whatever I didn't know was broken. And it wasn't fun, but they do a great job, and they're busy this week for sure. Yeah,
I had a woman comment her husband is HVAC employee. He actually brings separate articles of clothing so that he can change in between customers so he doesn't smell and be all sweaty between. And I'm like, man, that's just a huge round of applause for that, because that is just insane. I can't imagine having to do that. So I saw briefly you had up the Wyndham forecast. I did want to talk about that, Tim, because I love golf. I'm a big golfer, and this is your guys' big tournament. But it's always kind of plagued by rain, I feel like, just knowing about recent history. And the Wyndham is actually a pretty important tournament this year. I don't know, for non-golf fans, it's the last tournament before the FedEx Cup starts. So there's a lot of golfers who are trying to move into the top 70 in the FedEx Cup standings to get into the playoffs, basically. And so this is the actual last tournament before that. So you guys are probably going to have a pretty good field show up this year.
Yeah, I know we have Jordan Spieth showing up. We've got a couple other guys. We've got some regulars that are almost always here, but it seems like a lot of people are clamoring for some extra points. But
yes.
To your point, it does seem to me that we are going to have our usual issues. The usual issue is you get too many afternoon thunderstorms, and that'll probably be a problem once we go for round one, at least. Round 1 and 2, that's going to be a bit of an issue. So I think Thursday into Friday, that's when that cold front starts sliding a little closer to us and our air mass change kind of starts to begin. So the questions I have would be, how many of those thunderstorms do you have on Thursday? What times do they roll in, and how quickly are they moving? Have some concern that they might be a little slow moving. We're already in the level 2 risk for flash flooding for both Thursday and for Friday. I'm optimistic maybe it might get a little closer to you on Friday, especially by the afternoon in Charlotte. But round 1 and 2, those are, keep in mind, these are also the busier days when it comes to playing golf, because you have the whole field those first 2 days. So they have a lot of golf to get done on those first 2 days. So there might be some stoppages, there might be some delays. But for the weekend, on the flip side, the Wyndham has always been held in either August or July. I can't remember. I was saying this to our co-anchor, Chad Silber, on the news here.
Wow.
I've never remembered a Wyndham forecast that looks comfortable. And Saturday and Sunday both look comfortable. So you might be out there and you might not be a pile of sweat by the end of things. So we hope to see you. If you want to drive up this weekend, check out some golf. Anybody in the Charlotte area or anywhere in the Carolinas, it's a good time. They have plenty of parking. You just take a little bus over there. And it's a cool old golf course built in the 20s. Same guy that designed Pinehurst. It's one of those really nice courses. So it's cool to check out.
That's kind of a cool forecast, because, as you said, it's like, the early rounds are packed. The course could play much different by the weekend, too, as it cools out and dries out. But speaking of the course, did that area see a ton of rain when you had the tropical system come up there? And so they were pretty wet. They're not dealing with any issues right now with grass or anything, right?
They're not dealing with any issues right now. As I'm talking here, I might try and pull up a picture of what they did see. We had one of those stormy days where they got about 6 inches of rain in a day. So they're recovered from that now. Sedgefield, that thing can soak up water no problem. Last year they had Tropical Storm Debbie on round 1, and they finished the tournament. So they can handle it. They have a great grounds crew, but what they did see this time, and I'll just pop this up again. This here is one of the roads. It's not a major road, but it's right on the side of the golf course. So the day after it rained, it looked fine, and then you had a sinkhole that popped up midway through the day after. So that thing popped right up, and it hasn't been fixed completely yet. They're patching it up. It's mostly, honestly, used for, golf cart traffic, getting the golfers from the course to the staging areas and their house rentals and all that. So there shouldn't be any impact to the fans. You'll have the same experience as usual.
That's great. It actually makes me want to come up now, seeing that weekend forecast up there, because that will be great, especially to see
I know
some of those guys golfing for FedEx points, which will be amazing. So I wanted to talk to you about something we talked about on Friday, which ended up being kind of spectacular this weekend. Friday, I remember we left the show and we talked about the possibility of an East Coast rocket launch, and I was kind of like, it may or may not be visible because it was supposed to be at 4:34, and then lo and behold, we had a perfect 30-minute delay in the launch, and on Saturday morning, we got some videos like this. I got one sent in to me from Monroe. I'm sure you got a ton of these as well. Spectacular. And usually when people see this, they don't know what it is. They think it's a comet. They think it's a giant meteor. But this was the Falcon 9 SpaceX taking Starlink satellites up the East Coast, and it happened about an hour and 20 minutes before sunrise. And so when that thing got high up in the atmosphere, the sun, which is still over the horizon, by the way, is illuminating that vapor trail and making for a spectacular view on Saturday morning. Now, since then, we've had a couple sightings of the actual Starlink satellites, and I know you got some tweets and videos about that. But the last couple of mornings, the satellites they launched were visible in the morning.
Yeah, they were, and you've been good at explaining this throughout the years for those of us who might not speak space quite as fluently. But the way, as I understand it, right, they get launched, and then they're most visible in those first couple of days, right? The first couple of days afterwards, and then they put up those shields, and they kind of get blocked a little bit.
Yeah.
So this is the view in our area. This was taken somewhere locally, and you can speak to that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice
that's a
shot?
great
This is
shot,
5:05
Tim.
this morning.
Okay, so just to kind of peel back what Tim was talking about, people always ask because they miss it and they want to see it again. You got to see it like a day or two after launch. When they first get deployed, they're in a long string like that. Right now, I think there's only 27 because they're larger, and what you're seeing is the reflection from the satellite and the solar panel reflecting off the sun. What happens is once they are tested and they start spreading out, they go into what's called shark fin mode. And the only way I can describe that is instead of the solar panel looking straight down and reflecting the light, it becomes basically thin and parallel to us, and we can't see the reflection anymore. So that's kind of what happens. But yeah, if you get these things like the day or two after launch, especially before or after sunrise or sunset, that's what you'll see. And it is freaky. Tim, I've seen it probably, I don't know, 50 times because I always kind of track them, but it's still, when you see it in person, you're like, wow, that is, if you didn't know what that was, you would you would think aliens were invading.
It's not natural. It's not a normal thing to see in the sky, and it's not even like looking at the space station, which kind of gracefully glides along. Yeah. These things look like they're racing. They really look. They have momentum to them.
The only way I can describe it looks like a space train. It looks like there's a train up in orbit going around us. It's the craziest thing when you see it in reality. So yeah, that happened. And by the way, we might have a couple more opportunities here though. It's always kind of iffy as you get about 48 to 72 hours out. But there could be a couple more opportunities to see these go up. And obviously, anytime we get a launch, we'll try to let you know. But I think Saturday was a good example of just a 30-minute delay, Tim, was the difference between not